What up, guys? So I got some bad news about Wago. As you can see in the background, it's all pulled apart, and I'll just show you. I didn't bother with filming, pulling any of this out, but this is my #1 rod, and it's pretty shot. And right in here is just some little pieces of that bearing. So it's pretty fucked. I didn't really bother with filming any of this because I was just trying to get this done, figure out what happened, and honestly, I'm not sure why this happened. Let me talk to you guys about what really went down. So a couple days ago, we were about to go to a car meet, and of course this had to be like 50 miles out from our house. And right as we're almost getting there is when I actually shut it down. But I'd say about 20 miles before we actually got to this meet, I started to hear noise coming from Wago, and I didn't think too much of it. It honestly did not sound like a rod knock or anything like that. It just kind of sounded like something rattling, and I don't know, I didn't think much of it. The car, like, it would only come on certain RPMs. It did not sound like a rod knock to me, so I didn't think too much of it. And then it finally started to lose power and it started to get louder, and then I was like, oh shit, this might be something serious. So I shut it down and I got it towed home. And I'm honestly surprised it didn't throw a rod through the block, because I drove it really far with that knock, like really far. Like when the MR2 blew up, it had that knock for maybe a couple miles, and then it just grenaded. I probably went like a good 20 miles with that noise before I started to shut it down. But, and it didn't get like progressively louder. It just came on all of a sudden, like it was just loud. And then it just stayed like that until I finally shut it down. But, so, I don't know why that happened. What I'm thinking, it's probably my fault, because when I put this motor together, I didn't check any of the bearing clearances. I just slapped it all together, and I got this crank used on Craigslist, and I just assumed it would fit. I just made sure, I just thought everything would be standard size, so I didn't even worry about it like they did on Charlie's. They just slapped everything together, and his new build is still going just fine. But obviously something was messed up, because this #1 is shot, and this isn't the only one that's messed up. If you look over here, these are all my main bearings. They go right here. I have them sitting on this stool, and I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, but they are all down to their like secondary metal. Like they all have the copper showing in the middle. They're already like really worn out, and I maybe only have 800 miles on the car, because I did drive it quite a bit after I got it tuned, but like not even 1,000 miles yet. And this one right here, you can even see a piece of metal starting to flake off it. That is a piece of the bearing. Like that's not just a piece of metal sitting there. Like that's about to break off. And they all have like kind of like a burr. Can't really see it on camera, but they're all like flattened out as if the clearances were too tight or something, because I had the oil pressure gauge in there. It had good oil pressure, and then over time it was starting to, the oil pressure was going down, because this pickup was clogged with so much metal from just flakes coming off all the bearings. And yeah, so I'm really not sure what happened. And what I'm gonna do right now is get all my rods out of there, and then get the crank off, and hopefully the block and pistons and these other 3 rods will be okay. And if that's the case, all I would need is 1 new rod and a new set of bearings and a crank, and it would be good to go. And this time I will for sure check the bearing clearances. I just didn't think it would have been that big of a deal. So I don't know if you guys have any other ideas why this could have happened. I had everything torqued down to spec. I mean, I don't know, this one is like really there's like no bearing left in there at all. Like I don't even know how it ran like that for as long as it did. But I'm really not sure what went on. As far as I know, I put everything in right, but we can always make mistakes. All my thrust washers are in there correctly. I mean, this was a polished crank on Craigslist, so that's all I can think of right now, is that since I didn't check the bearing clearances, something could have been too loose or too tight, and that could have led to what went down. But yeah, like I said, real quick, I'm gonna pull all these rods out, get the crank out, and hopefully everything isn't too bad. If it's just the crank and this one that's messed up, it's really not big of a deal, and that's not even that expensive of a fix. And I spent maybe an hour and a half to get the motor out, because I mean, we kind of got it down now. It's not even a big deal for us. So yeah, I'm gonna get those out real quick and then show you guys if everything's good from there.
Oh, see? Stop doing that! It's got washing machine for me.
We can take cameras outside. Oh.
I think they can take the cameras outside.
It doesn't look like it'll hurt. It fucking does.
I got the crank out. It's already in the back of the van. I'm fixing to take everything over to Brent and have him look at everything, see what's savable, and he wanted to take a look at everything. I just kind of rinsed the block off because it was soaked in oil, but all the pistons are still kind of hanging out of there, and pretty much every bearing on the rod bearings and the main bearings were all like toasted. I'm not sure where the rod bearings are at. Some of them are over here, but they're all wearing really unevenly, like they're all just like fucked up. So I'm starting to think something was messed up with that crank. Yeah, like look at this bearing, it won't even sit in there like tight at all. And I just want to see if all the rods are okay, let Brent look at everything. But I'm really starting to think that that crank was either bad or maybe the oil pump was like going out or something. I have no idea. It's the only thing I can really think of, but oh well, shit happens, and I'm gonna go see what Brent thinks about all this.
Melted to it. Melted, yeah.
What do you think could have caused it? Do you think it could have been that crank? If it was the wrong size, if it was machined down or something?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, I didn't plastic gauge anything. I just threw it all
What
together.
pressure were you seeing before this happened?
Like when I was cruising, it was at like 40 or 50 PSI. And then like it went down to 20 by the time I shut it off. It was getting low.
Yeah. It's dying.
Yeah.
Those dents in the main bearings though, that's like...
Yeah. That one main bearing that was just flattened out. There was, yeah, like that one. That one's bad.
Yeah, get that crank checked.
Crank's common to be bent.
Yeah, crank could have been bent. Maybe it got dropped.
Oh, I did drop it, actually. I dropped it off. I remember. Yeah, I asked you that. Remember? I dropped it off the freaking engine hoist,
Really?
or off the stand, like from the engine stand. I just
3 feet?
I flipped the motor.
Okay, that honestly could have been it.
Probably. Fuck it.
YOLO, that's your words.
I definitely should have plastic gauged it after I did that.
Kyle's favorite word, YOLO.
YOLO only
YOLO.
works 50% of the time.
50% of the time, it works every time. Makes no sense.
No, yeah, I completely forgot about that. I definitely dropped it.
That's probably it.
Let's just go with that.
Go see if it's. Well, he could probably
Well,
check
you'll-
if it's
you'll-
bent.
yeah.
Yeah, when he'll
No.
spin it, he'll find out.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like it's something to do with that crank.
It's something to do with your crank.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now that you say you dropped it like from a stand.
Well, I guess we'll find out. When are you gonna run all that stuff over?
Monday morning,
Alright,
even Friday, so
so find out sometime next week.
yeah. I'll have him do the crank for me right there, so
Alright.
I can see it.
Well, I'll probably
See if
need
he
a new
says,
crank.
Has this been dropped?
Oops.
Well,
Oh well, as long as everything else is fine, I'm not really that worried about it. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's just annoying because I wanted to start on the van. I need Wago to freaking be able to drive me
Van's been
around.
Reliable.
Yeah, the van's the only one that works until we start tearing into it.
Then we better get another beater.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for another daily. I need another daily. We just got back from PFI not too long ago. I already went ahead and cleaned up most of my mess from Wago. I just got some parts laying right here, and I put all the other ones over there for right now. And we just cleaned up our garage a couple days ago, so we're trying to keep it clean in here. But what I'm gonna do for now is just kind of push Wago outside, and it'll probably sit until I get the motor put back together so I can throw it back in there. But I did drop off the crank with Brent, and he's gonna take it to a machine shop sometime next week that specializes in crankshafts, and they will be able to figure out if that crank was bent or if maybe it was machined down a little bit, and that could have caused all my bearings to get fucked up like they did. So like we were talking about with Brent, I did not tell you guys, but I definitely did drop that crank at one point, and that definitely could be the cause of all this. So I had it on an engine stand, and I don't know what I was doing, but I just completely forgot about it, and I just flipped it with the crank in there, and it just dropped on the floor for maybe like 2 or 3 feet, and that definitely could have bent it, and it could have fucked it up, and that could be the reason my motor kind of took a shit. So I looked stuff up online about people dropping cranks just to see, because I wasn't sure if I could still use it, and people online said they've dropped cranks off their engine stands before and they've just thrown them in and they were fine. I honestly didn't even want to show you guys that this happened to Wago, but it is what it is. It did happen. I just didn't want to get roasted for not knowing how to put a motor together, but it is my fault. I should have checked the clearances, and I definitely should have not dropped the crank off the block from the engine stand, because I bet that is what caused it. I didn't tell you guys that that happened, but I definitely dropped that shit from like a couple feet, and it just landed right on our concrete floor, and I could have bent the crank and fucked up all my bearings. So we will find out when that gets back from the machine shop, but until then I definitely learned my lesson. And if you ever get a used crank, that one was used from Craigslist, definitely make sure you go check them out, like go get them checked from a machine shop, and then you really need to check your clearances if you don't know where the crank even came from. But you live and learn, and I definitely learned my lesson this time. So next time I put this motor back together, I will definitely be checking the bearing clearances, and if I ever get a used crank again, I will definitely go get it checked out, because I had no idea if that one was bent or if it was oversized or anything like that. I just figured it would have been fine, and it was probably because I dropped it is why all this happened, but you never know. From the start, that crank could have been the wrong size, or it could have been bent from the get-go. So definitely learn from your mistakes. Hopefully this won't happen again. But it shouldn't take too much to get Wago up and running again. I'm more mad that I won't have a daily anymore, because now that Wago's broken, we can't work on the Odyssey just yet. And I know you guys really want to see us start on the Odyssey, and trust me, I do too, but I mean, shit comes out of nowhere, and this kind of sucks. So I'm gonna try to get Wago put back together as fast as I can so I can have a daily, or I honestly might even buy one more car just to daily only, and I will not touch it, no modification, only get it from A to B, so we can work on all these cars. I have 4 cars myself. I have the Hatch, Wago, the MR2, and the Odyssey to work on. And currently, out of all of these cars, the only one that still runs is the Odyssey. And once we start tearing into that thing, it's probably gonna have some issues too. There's also a good chance I'll be able to get past emissions on all of my cars. So with that being said, I will probably get the Hatch up and running really soon, as long as I can make sure that it will all work out and I don't actually have to go past emissions. That would be so nice if this works out, and more info on that if it does. But if I can get past emissions, the Hatch will be getting put back together very soon, and I need to get fucking Wago put back together now. This kind of sucks that that happened, but I will get Wago put back together. And then an update on the MR2, I've been looking into the wiring and some of that stuff, and Brent is willing to help me with the wiring on this, so I actually might take the MR2 over to PFI and kind of have him guide me through what I need to do to get this thing wired up and running, because I really want to get this thing going. It's starting to get warm out. We need to get the cars running so we can go race people and just go have fun. But we have a lot of projects and not much time, so I'm really trying to get all these put together, trust me, but it's just kind of hard to put videos out, especially now that I started classes again and shit like this happens and Wago decides to fucking break on me. But it's all good. One more thing I want to mention real quick, guys. We do have these t-shirts that we've been making. Right now we have about 50 of them, and they are really simple. They just say Boostedboiz on them, and we only have the 3 colors, just like that dark heather gray, black, and normal gray with black lettering. There's nothing on the back. They are a simple shirt, and we only have mediums through XL currently. But if we do sell these pretty fast, we will make more shirts in more colors and in more sizes. So we just want to see how fast we can get rid of these shirts. And the main reason we're doing this is to get some extra money so we can fund the projects going on, because as you guys know, we have quite a few projects going on. So if you do want to help us out by picking up a shirt, we would really appreciate it, and your money will go to use. All the money from these shirts will probably be going into the Odyssey, helping get that thing built, and some of it might be going into the MR2, and then we'll just be making our cars more legit from there. But a lot of it is money, because a lot of our cars are just built with eBay parts, because genuine parts are too expensive for us teenage kids. So if we can sell some shirts, we will definitely be putting the money to use. So just wanted to say that real quick, and thank you guys so much.